All right. Good evening, everyone. This is the June 12th, 2024 meeting of the Auburn Conservation Commission. This open meeting is being operated as a hybrid format under Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022. The public can join the meeting remotely by dialing 408-650-3123 and then using access code 942-845-549. You can join via computer at global.gotomeeting.com/join/942-845-549. So all supporting materials for tonight's meeting have been provided to the commissioners. It's also available on the town's website, and the public is encouraged to follow along using the agenda that's also posted on our website. My name is Michael Garland. I'm chairman of the commission. Before we begin, let me do a roll call of our members. Tom Fallon.
Here.
Megan Langley.
Here.
Chris Carey.
Here.
Jesse Averka.
Here.
All right. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. And so I know we have at least one remote participant. I would just say to Mr. Brown that when we do call your matter, just state your name and also your address as if you were appearing in person. So
I will do that.
without further ado, the first matter on our agenda is 7 p.m. public hearing. Dr. Syed Ali Tahir, a notice of intent for property at 0 Cemetery Road to convert a lot into a cemetery. Is there a motion to open?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Gentlemen?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's cool.
Mike, we sent in everything that you received all the paper copies that was sent in.
Yeah.
I do have some extra copies. Please, tonight. But my name is Seth Taylor. I'm a professional wetland scientist with Ty and Bond. I have Todd Curtin here on the line, on Zoom with me, and from Ty and Bond and Dennis Duran as well. So, we are representing this project in full because we had a clerical error in the distribution of butters notices. And so we fully notified all butters again. And I've submitted proof of that to Jesse.
Okay.
So he has that now. So this project is an existing historic dump located on Cemetery Road, which is being converted into a cemetery. This is going to be a type of public beneficial reuse of the site. There's some contaminated sediments that are located at the site. Todd can get into more details on that, but those will essentially be buried under the ground in fill so that they are immobile. And then all of the fill on top will be clean fill all the way down below the cemetery elevations. So the areas that are particularly pertinent to the conservation jurisdiction, this is in existing conditions plan where, this is the entirety of the site. This is Cemetery Road, north to south, and there's a BVW to the east of the site that is off-site that we delineate by visual inspection and LiDAR topography. We do not have access to that site, but no work is being performed within that BVW. Within the first 25-foot no disturb zone, that's within the road, no work will occur within that area whatsoever. Within the 50 to 100, and I mean the 25 to 50, and then the 50 to 100, that's where clearing and grading of the existing vegetation will occur, where new stormwater structures will be installed to receive flow off of the site. And a stormwater report has been prepared, which was submitted to the commission and to DEP. DEP had comments we've addressed those comments, and you should have those in front of you. So, and so the only work that is really occurring within that 100-foot buffer zone is just stormwater work. The actual cemetery is going to be up outside of that area. An access road, in part, this is the line right here, this is the access road. This will be a paved road going up the hill. And the stormwater that will come off of it have been designed to go down to catchments, small stormwater bays, and then eventual discharge to an existing pipe that is underneath Cemetery Road, which won't be, that pipe itself will not be dug up and with us. I guess, Todd, do you want to say a few words?
Sure. Todd Curtin, I'm the LSP of record for the release condition that's in this at the site. Little background again relative to the use. It was 1960s, 1980s. It was used as unpermitted, undocumented construction and demolition debris type dump. We've done an assessment of I heard the word sediment. I wouldn't use sediment, soil. Just for what's there, contamination in the soils. A little bit of a groundwater issue, but we have 5 monitoring wells, groundwater monitoring wells on site that we've sampled numerous times. And it really comes down to a typical type of contaminants that are in the soils from these kind of dump sites that are I guess not uncommon. You do see these in other places. Sometimes they are like a town dump that was used for construction and demolition debris, but this again was privately done, and no permits were issued for it. But it's heavy metals like lead and arsenic, and then some, but the acronyms PAH is polyaromatic, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and then low levels of PCBs. And most of these, what they are, they're pretty immobile. They really just stick to the soils. The burned up debris soils that are there. In some areas, they're over 10 feet, up to 15 feet in thickness. It's probably upwards of more than 60,000 cubic yards, 70,000 cubic yards of material there. And really the remedial options, you're really limited at that point to if you're going to take it and take it all off site and dispose of it, the implications are astronomical, if you will. So, like many, and almost like in a landfill, it's not considered a landfill. We're not going under landfill regs, but the best approach is to cap it. And so, as Seth indicated, it's almost like a beneficial reuse in a sense that it needs to be capped as it is, but we're going to raise the grades even further to create a plateau for the cemetery area.
Do you recall offhand at what depth you hit groundwater?
So it matters where you're on site. When you're closer to Cemetery Road itself, there is the monitoring well that it's like halfway down along that stretch. And the groundwater table there is like 5 feet. As you get up the slope, groundwater table is, closer to 15. And for the most part, that's, where the debris, although as you get closer to the road, even though you can see some stuff on the slope, that have been dumped maybe towards the end of its use, because it is very overgrown site since the 1980s. But for the most part, the debris ends before the roadway that we've found, and a previous consultant had done some work. But when you start going up the slope, where they were pushing things around and basically burying this, they would bury it above the water table. They weren't going into the water table. That wouldn't have made much sense. They weren't like filling in a swamp or something. There was nothing there. So when you get up higher up the land there, it does get deeper, like 15, 16 feet down for the groundwater table.
And how much longer are you going to monitor groundwater at the site? Would it be through the duration of the project, or do you foresee a time when you would remove those wells?
We would remove them after, yeah. We don't have a long-term need to do groundwater monitoring. Different than like a solid waste landfill where there is a monitoring program set up, for other potential issues. We don't really have that here, so there may be a little bit more groundwater monitoring, but prior to and after construction, maybe prior to, but after construction, we wouldn't need to do any more groundwater monitoring unless there's a significant concern that you're pushing things out and changing things, but we're really not. We're just raising and actually, like even infiltration from storm, from rainwater or anything else, there'd be a lot less interaction, if you will, between naturally, what would maybe seep through those soils down to the groundwater table as we cap it. And when I say cap it too, just keep in mind, we're not talking any folks that have any landfill experience. We're not talking like a line cap. That's not needed for this. We don't have, it's not like a solid waste and refuse issue and you have like methane, things like that. That's not in play here. This is just a soil cap in a sense. And again, we're, typically if you're not doing a cemetery, you can get away with like a 2 or 3 foot cap and put a deed restriction. Ultimately, there will be a deed restriction on the property. And basically it's just saying if you dig down below the depths of where the cap material is, you're going to be disturbing or dealing with contaminated soil and you got to handle those properly. And that's really all we're looking to restrict on the property deed, and there would be no need to really get down to those levels anymore. It would be sort of really out of sight, out of mind in a sense.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Any questions?
So can you just describe again for me, like what exactly is going on in the buffer area that you're doing? Like what are the actual activities?
It's very specifically stormwater information, and this is on stormwater.
Yeah, if you could just help me understand what it looks like now and what it looks like after, and just kind of everything.
Sure. Dennis Moran, Ty and Bond. I'm also happen to be a project manager, but I'm also a professional engineer throughout New England. So the current conditions are very, very overgrown with a mix of all types of vegetation. And it's steep grade from Cemetery Road up to the, going to the west. And this entire area, majority of the site is going to be regraded within the limit of work to accept material and also to cap the debris that's there. There's going to be an access road that's approximately 24 feet wide to allow access to the site that is in the buffer to the north side. But then there's going to be a couple of detention basins as well as catch basins and structures to allow the flow of water.
Okay.
So the goal was not to infiltrate the water into the waste mass. They're not line systems, but they're just containing the water to reduce peak rates running off the site, basically so we don't flood any areas out.
Okay.
It also remove like suspended solids as well as phosphorus and nitrogen.
Okay. So could you just kind of, there's like a lot of lines on here, and like, could you kind of outline here where there's actually going to be like the detention?
Sure. So overall on the site, to meet peak flows and for treatment purposes, the impervious surface of the roadway will be captured and then directed to either, so there's a swale that runs down here to this
Okay.
detention basin that then discharges down the slope. There's also a swale that grabs or conveys the stormwater from the plateau area down to this detention basin. It's outside the buffer, but just for conversation, that is conveyed via pipes through some structures. And the structure over here, and then there's that then comes down through various different structures that go to another detention basin, and then ultimately conveys back to this culvert and then across the road. So
Okay.
our goal was to match the preconditioned flows so that we weren't changing the amount of stormwater or the rate of stormwater running off the site compared to today.
So does the water go through any type of like filtration other than just settling out in the detention basin?
Settling out as well as subs in the structures. So I did the additional settlement, but there's
So
no
okay.
proposed like jellyfish type filters if that's your specific.
Well, I guess the question is, to make sure that the structures don't get silted in, is there going to be some sort of maintenance program?
Yes, absolutely. So that is not only in the structures, but the detention basins and forebays, those will have to be dredged out or sediment will have to be maintained and removed, mowed as well.
Okay,
And that there is an O&M plan in the stormwater report. It's not on the drawings, but
all right.
Okay.
there's an appendice that an expected cost as well. So
Okay.
it also complies with Mass DEP stormwater regulations. And as part, so we're in front of the planning board in about 2 weeks. We expect the stormwater as part of the planning board process to be reviewed by the town's third-party engineer. So there may be some slight tweaks if they find, their opinion differs than ours to modify and, bring it up to what they recommend for this project as well. So I'm not saying that this, there might be some slight changes. I wouldn't expect significant changes, but you never know.
Just in looking at the plan, I think what I would like to see is the installation of erosion controls actually along the boundary of the wetland. That may be, maybe it's overkill, maybe it's belt and suspenders, but I think that would certainly guarantee that no material gets in there.
I think we could propose it along within the property boundaries, with the
Or
downward slopes.
I'm saying actually across the road and right on the boundary of the wetland, even to the extent that you have access to that area.
We can certainly ask the property owner, but,
You're getting no cooperation?
they're not coordinating with, it's just our property.
Okay.
And we can't propose work on somebody else's property.
No, I understand. All right.
So absolutely happy to propose erosion control method, and siltation fence, around the entire site. I would expect that. There should be some on the sheet. We are proposing silt sock around the site, but, double method like silt sock and silt fence, as well as a construction entrance and, typical BMPs, are definitely something that we would expect and recommend.
Okay.
And again, it's gonna be over an acre, so it'll require EPA SWIP.
Mhm.
So it'll be addressed in that as well, in writing.
All right. I guess my only question is, I wonder if we're able to close the public hearing tonight, or if we should wait for the planning board to submit their comments to you. Do you have a preference?
I think a conditional OOC pending any, this isn't gonna happen, like, we understand we're gonna be in front of the planning board, so if it's
Right.
more comfortable for the commission, to wait until afterwards, I don't think, it's not like we can start tomorrow.
No, I understand that. I think I'd like to see what comments, if any, you get regarding the stormwater, management. So,
I think that's more than reasonable.
okay. So in that case,
I just have one more question.
go ahead, please.
Just like a ton of Japanese knotweed on the site. Are there any plans to, like, management plans for that?
I don't think we have a specific management plan, other than it is all going to be graded and then replaced within the remediation area.
Okay.
Right, so.
If you were just remove it and it's not,
So what I did,
Poison.
this isn't gonna be effective here too, but what I did at this airport where they had their foam yet, they buried it. They like spread out the soils and then it went to regular mowing, which is what will happen here. So as long as it keeps getting cut and cut and cut and cut and cut, it won't go back. In those mowing areas specifically.
where do the clippings from the site go when they're,
For the invasive or the
no, let's just
vegetation,
say when they, it's totally converted to cemetery and you have grass clippings, like where do those go, get composted?
That is a good question.
Because those will just spread it everywhere if they're not properly dealt with.
That is something, so,
You might want to think about a plan for that.
It's, I mean, it's a huge, I mean, we're seeing it like, you know, pop up all over like city compost piles, things like that. It's a huge issue.
Is there a preference or recommendation you would prefer?
We
other than
don't,
us proposing a management plan for invasives.
I think that sounds great.
Okay. Is there anyone in the public that has any comment on this proposal?
I just have one question. So if there's,
Sure.
say the planning board there's no changes to the stormwater or minor changes, change the neighborhood, I'm just saying, proposing, throwing something out there. We obviously have to come back. Is that something we could just do virtually? And
Oh, sure.
Okay, perfect.
Absolutely. I mean, if,
Just
yeah,
in the interest of everybody's time.
absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. So therefore, we have your permission to continue this to June 26th.
Okay.
That's our next meeting, and
And I would not expect,
We are meeting with the planning, for the, planning board, it's on June 25th, I believe.
right.
I don't know where they are with third-party review for the, stormwater report. This would be our first time with them. So I don't know if it benefits us at this point.
they haven't been
To be-
asked yet, Todd, just,
Yeah,
If it's a situation where you think it's gonna take more than one meeting with the planning board, we can always kick over the meeting to July. And you can do that by
Okay.
telephone.
okay. And you already have something on the agenda for the
So I was
26th?
gonna ask him, do we have anything on at 7 PM on the 26th?
Well, if this were continued, it would be the 7 for the 26th.
7 PM?
Yeah.
So that's it, 7 PM.
I was trying to avoid if you had nothing on the agenda, I did not want to create an agenda for you to come.
I appreciate that, but you know, people keep us pretty busy,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
so. Okay, I think we're all set then.
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
We appreciate everybody's time.
Yeah.
thank you.
And I'm going to take a motion to continue the public hearing in this matter to June 26th at 7 PM. So moved. All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, it's a vote. All right.
So we will be in touch with you probably the morning of the 26th.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or if you want to.
You can just call me or shoot me an email and figure it out from there.
No, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next matter on our agenda is 7:15 public hearing, Marcos Mora, request for determination of applicability for property at 6 Elizabeth Drive to install an in-ground pool. Is there a motion to open?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Is there anyone here on behalf of Mr. Mora?
I am.
Okay, please come up and state your name.
Marcos Mora.
Oh, hello. Hello, Mr. Moore. So, in looking at your request for determination, I didn't see that wetlands were delineated on your sketch. So, and just in looking at this, I have no idea where the wetlands are. I assume there are wetlands because you file with us. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So I can actually, so I was asked to go out there. I mentioned that Gary is going to start having me go out to any site that's going to be new construction, you know, like a pool, an addition, anything like that.
Okay.
So I went over to his property at 6 Elizabeth, and from looking at the plan, I couldn't tell exactly where the pool was going to be going in. Realistically, there are wetlands, you know, probably 70 feet from the back of his yard into the woods.
Okay.
So they are, you know, they're pretty much right at, I think with where the pool is going, and it's pretty much right at the line where, you know, you guys do have jurisdiction, so I recommended that he file, but it's, you know, pretty far away from the limits of work that are
Okay.
on that.
Well, I think, and I think you know this is our standard operating procedure. I think
Yeah,
we
yeah.
need to take a look. So, Mr. Moore, I was wondering if we could maybe stop by on Saturday just to take a look at your backyard
Absolutely.
and the wetlands. Okay. Would 9 o'clock be okay?
So do I have to be there? Oh,
You don't have to be there.
Okay, at 9 o'clock is good.
Okay. All right. In that case, then, and we have your permission to continue the public hearing until our next meeting in June?
Sure. I won't have an answer before that.
Yeah, you will not have an answer before that. That's right.
Okay. So
We just need to take a look because the request that you filed doesn't give any, it doesn't indicate where the wetlands are, and we just need to take a look to see where they are.
yeah. I mean, we didn't need. I didn't think we needed one because everybody else has a pool.
I understand.
We're the only house that does it, so
Uh-huh.
and everybody's closed.
I get that. We still have to take a look though,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
All right, so and you don't have to be there. If you've got other plans, that's fine. We won't disturb the area or anything like that. It won't take us long.
Okay,
So, but I'm just letting you know, we'll plan to be there on Saturday at 9 o'clock.
sounds good.
Okay, very good.
And then I'll have to be here on June 26th.
Well, do you have access to a computer?
Yeah.
You could always, you could always come, participate by Zoom conference.
Okay.
We have that information's available, on the town website.
I think I actually have I'm assuming, but I think your wife's email. I think
Right.
I've gone back and forth with her a couple
Yeah.
times, so I'll give her an update tomorrow and, let her know and give her the info for attending remotely.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you,
All
sir.
right, thank you.
All right. May I have a motion to continue the public hearing for Mr. Moore's application to June 26th at 7:10?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's a vote. Okay. All right. For other business, 7 Maria Avenue. So we had instructed the contractor, Quality Worcester LLC, of which Joe Goodman is a principal, to submit a notice of intent to us by May 22nd. He did not do so. So on June 4th of 2024, I sent a letter to Mr. Goodman, and I think we have copies, or I can certainly share
Yeah,
my
I have
copy.
copies.
And so we basically, in my letter, I said that I just remind him that he had been told to submit a notice of intent by May 22nd. Recounted how it was sent by first class and certified mail to him, and also Joe Valdette Manfron at a different address. So on June 4th, I made a demand that he submit us a notice of intent to us no later than today, which is June 12th. And I advised Mr. Goodman, and this is a quote, "Your failure to do so will result in an escalation of enforcement, including the possible imposition of fines that are mandated by the town's wetland bylaw and regulations." And so I'm advised by Mr. Averka that Mr. Goodman or Quality Worcester LLC has not submitted a notice of intent for Maria Avenue. So I have to believe at this point, we've given him now 2 opportunities to comply with our enforcement order. I have to believe that he is willfully ignoring it. And so I believe, and I say this with, not with hesitation, but with some, I think, regret, that we have to enforce or use our enforcement authority when parties don't comply. So, is there a motion? Keeping in mind that we have the ability to fine, and we advised him that one of the possible sanctions would be fines. If you are not comfortable doing that, I understand.
Well, I think maybe just a little bit of discussion first. So, I mean, fines can be, what are they can be imposed. I'm not saying that we necessarily need to go condition by condition, but I mean, fines can be imposed on multiple conditions.
Fines,
So-
sure, absolutely. I mean,
So, which are the specific, just to be clear,
Sure.
the specific conditions?
I'm happy to read it to you. So this is under our bylaws under Section 11 Enforcement F. Any person who violates any provision of this bylaw or regulations, permits, or administrative orders issued thereunder shall be punished by a fine in an amount to be established by the commission under the Wetland Protection Regulations. Each day or portion thereof during which a violation continues or unauthorized fill or other alteration remains in place shall constitute a separate offense, and each provision of the bylaws, regulations, permits, or administrative orders violated shall constitute a separate offense. So that's under enforcement. Under the regulations, this is 1.09. Failure to obtain, or strike that. in terms of defining what violations include but are not limited to, C, failure to obtain a valid permit, order of conditions, or extension permit prior to conducting an activity subject to regulation under the bylaw. D, conducting work that causes harm to an area subject to protection under the bylaw, except as provided under a valid permit. So in this case, in terms of what I perceive as a violation is the failure to obtain a valid permit. And if you recall, this is a situation where at the bottom of the slope of this property, there's a wetland area, and the slope going down to that wetland is a steep slope. It appears that Mr. Goodman used grass seed in an attempt to stabilize it, but it's my opinion, and I'm not an engineer, but I've seen washouts in other cases where I believe a decent storm event will just wash that all out, and will basically silt in or cause siltation to the wetland system at the bottom of that slope. It seems to me that the way to prevent that from happening is to basically put riprap on that slope or guard it in some other manner or similar manner. And I mean, again, it's jurisdictional for us. I think the remedy is not a difficult remedy and not even necessarily an expensive remedy. So, but again, and I will say this, and this is absolutely true. Mr. Goodman is not a stranger to our board. We dealt with his property at 498 Rochdale Street for several years. There were violations of orders on that property. And so I only mention that because he is well aware, should be well aware of our board, and I would like to believe that he should understand that we take our enforcement or our authority seriously. So we've given him now 2 opportunities to submit excuse me, a notice of intent. Yeah, excuse me, notice of intent. Have a discussion with him, and he just refuses to comply.
So if we impose fines, would the end date of the fines be dependent on, like, or maybe this is something we can define in this, is like, if riprap is installed, or is it receiving the notice of intent, or do we determine?
I think right now, he has failed to file a notice of intent after we've asked him 2 times now to do it. That, and again, under the regulations, that is a violation. I think in terms of when enforcement would start and when fines would be imposed would be from today, because again, we gave him a deadline of today to issue that notice of intent. He didn't do it. And then in terms of when the fines would stop, certainly the receipt of a notice of intent might be sufficient to cause those fines to stop at that point. Again, I mean, what this is, and I think one way to look at it is that people are fined in order to get their attention.
Yeah.
And it appears that we have not gotten his attention, or the attention of Quality Worcester LLC, his company. And I would tend to think that a fine tends to get someone's attention.
Yeah.
So, but again, and I'm just offering my view. I'm one of 4 here today. So if no one is comfortable in filing a motion to escalate enforcement in this matter, I fully understand that. I'm just telling you what my opinion is.
It makes sense to me. My only question is, what transpired at 498 Rochdale? Was a fine issued, and did he respond?
Fines were issued, and eventually, I think, if memory serves, I believe the fines accrued to almost over $5,000. They were compromised, but I think Mr. Goodman did pay a 4-figure number to resolve those fines. So again, it's not like he's unaware of that. I don't think this is a situation where he can say, "I didn't know I had to do this." I think he's been educated, and I think certainly as a builder, I think he understands, or should understand, what his obligations are. The other thing is this too. if I'm not mistaken, he never contacted you, right?
No.
You never reached out to say, what's this all about, or what do I need to do?
Well, I was brought out there because he was on the agenda for the zoning board of appeals for, a totally separate matter that has nothing to do with this commission.
Right.
And then in being there, I thought that it was very close to, the BBW at the bottom of the hill. So I reached out to him about it, and then he sent me that Ecotech report that we all looked at, which was addressing a totally different, there's a drainage channel coming from the road that report was addressing.
Right. Something
Which-
totally different.
Exactly, yeah. And then that's what and obviously I have those emails that I sent to him where I explained that that's not what I was referring to and that wasn't my area of concern. And then that was kind of the end of
So he
contact.
never responded to you.
I think at that point, his responses just became about ZBA rather than anything to do with this board.
Okay.
If memory serves me, I mean, I'd have to look exactly, but
All right.
yeah.
Okay.
What was the daily amount of fines imposed before?
$50 a day, which is the minimum we can impose. I think it's the minimum we can impose. We can go above that, but I think the minimum amount is $50.
Okay. I mean, I'll make the motion. I just don't know the best way to phrase it in terms of we impose, this, we impose a fine starting today, but I feel like we also need to give and I don't know how to leave it, to state it with it being open-ended,
So, and to your point, Megan, under 1.09 enforcement, any person who violates any provision of the bylaw, the rules and regulations promulgated under it, or any conditions of a valid permit shall be punished by a fine of not more than $300
Right.
per day for each offense.
Right.
So I think in the scope of things, I think $50 is a relatively low penalty. Don't get me wrong, I understand that if they continue over time, it can be a substantial amount of money.
Right.
And 50 is just one suggestion. If you have another amount you want to propose, so.
okay, yeah, again, my only question is how to phrase it with the end, the end point,
I'll tell you the way I think I would do it. I would say, if the board approves of fines, then a letter can be sent out, and I'll prepare the letter saying, I'll make reference to the letter I sent him on June 4th. You didn't provide the notice of intent. That was the second time you were requested or advised to file it. You didn't do it. You didn't contact us. At the meeting of the Conservation Commission on June 12th, 2024, it was voted that because you didn't respond, a fine was going to be imposed. The fine is X number of dollars per day. Daily fines will continue to accrue until you comply with the enforcement order that you file a notice of intent.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay, I make a motion that we impose a daily fine of $100 on, what's the address?
7 Maria.
7 Maria Avenue until the issues in the enforcement order are met.
Okay. I
Or
second that. Okay, is there any other discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It's a vote. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll prepare a draft and I'll circulate it to the other members of the board. Okay. So the next matter on our agenda is 26 Alfred Street. Mr. Brown, are you with us?
I am with you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. So I was looking in the enforcement order we issued, and I think we asked you for a restoration plan, but not you personally, but we asked for a restoration plan. Do you have one for us?
Yep.
Well, where is it?
Yeah, that's the one I had previously provided to Jesse
Yeah, I have one.
prior to the site walk. So I provided two scenarios, kind of a restoration plan to use that Hall Road during construction, as we discussed on our site walk
Uh-huh.
last Saturday. And then what I also proposed was what the applicant was looking for in a final condition. I mean, that's probably about a year off. There's approximately a year left of construction there. But what the applicant would like to do in the, final condition, so to speak, would be to pave basically an 8-foot wide shared use path that would provide connection to Oxford and a large network of trails. In the meantime, what we had discussed to restore that area while continuing to use that access road was construct an earth berm on the north side of that access to basically stop any flow, any drainage from going into the wetland that could be running off. There is silt fence, there's a little bit of riprap there. That needs to be probably updated, but that berm should be constructed and then hydroseeded and stabilized is what we were proposing as far as restoration to that area.
So, you know, I wonder, because it's jurisdictional for us, and I've given a fair amount of thought to this. I mean, I know what you proposed. I think I'd like to see something maybe more formal from you. And I don't know if that would be maybe an addendum to the original notice of intent, or maybe even a separate notice of intent.
Yeah. So I had been thinking about this too, and I think I may have said it previous. My thought was to amend the original order of conditions that we have
Okay.
to include this scope of work, and then at the same time extend it, because, you know, I think we would need to extend it to get through that next year,
Right.
to have valid permits.
Mhm.
Being so close to that project and the work really associated with that project, so I think it makes sense to amend that order of conditions, but I'm open to suggestions.
So when the current order of conditions, when does that expire?
So it's a little bit convoluted because permits got extended
Right.
through COVID
Right.
during shutdown, so there was an additional 462 days added to permits.
Mhm.
I would have to look at the exact date. But that, if we're willing to go that route, I would, you know, get you something more formal. I'm not exactly sure what the process is to amend a previous order of conditions, and extend it, but I'd be happy to do that as soon as possible.
I mean, I think it makes sense to combine the two at this point. But I'm also going to address the issue that I addressed with you at our last meeting. I don't understand why this gravel road was used. First of all, it was never shown on any plan submitted by Eastland. And according to Mr. Allard, apparently this road has been used since at least the beginning of the year. And I believe, based on my observations at the site, that there was a degradation of the wetland there. And so, based on what I think has happened, the fact that it was not disclosed on the plan, and that there was, I think, a degradation of the wetland area there, I honestly see this as a violation of both the bylaw and the regulation, which I read to you last week. And so,
Yep.
I mean, I'm going to leave it up to the board. I'm only one person. But again, and to be honest with you, I'm surprised, because Eastland is well established. It's a large contractor. I think Charlie has a good reputation. And so I was just, I was surprised that this happened. And, but again, I mean, you know, we're a regulatory body, and I think we have an obligation to apply the law. So I'll just leave it at that. When do you think you would be in a position to submit an amendment to the original notice of intent?
Depending on process, which I don't think is a very hard application, I guess you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse, but I mean, I could get it to you probably early next week, late this week or early next week, you know, with a plan showing that restoration, probably both scenarios. One, how that access road is going to be used during construction, and then a final condition.
All right, so I'm thinking maybe, just to make sure, to allow for sufficient time, maybe put this on our agenda for July 10th.
Yeah, I would be willing
Sounds good to
to.
me. Yeah.
All right. All right, so in that case, we will continue this just generally until July 10th.
In the meantime, I would expect that I would file that amendment to this with those plans, and then is it a public hearing for an amended order of conditions,
Well, if,
or is it procedural?
I would, yeah, it would have, it has to be published, and that's why I think July 10th is the better date, because I don't think there's enough time to
Yeah,
get
okay.
it done by the 26th.
Correct. It would be, yeah, it would be published in the newspaper. Does it also require a butter notification to do an amendment?
I would imagine so, but I can certainly find that out for sure and let you know in the coming days.
Okay. Yeah, either way, it gives us time to be able to do both. That was my only thought.
All right.
Just one question, and I'm sorry if you already said this, but so the road is or is not currently in use?
They are not, because at the last meeting, we were told not to use it,
Okay.
so it's not been in use.
That's what I
They
thought.
would like to use that road just to keep trucks off the road. Easy to transport and haul material between projects, but
Right.
as of now, they're not using it. So as soon as they can use it, I mean, they would be happy to do so.
Okay, and there's been silt fence installed already?
There is still
Okay.
fence there now.
Okay, all right.
Whereas,
Travis, do you know when the silt fence was put in? Was that about a month ago or maybe beginning of May?
I believe they put that in closer to the beginning of the year when they started using it. From my understanding, that was an existing path, and I understand it was never shown on a plan. Honestly, I did not know it was there until tree cutting happened, and then it was, pretty evident somebody had been using that. Now, there's been previous developer in there on both properties, so, somebody did something. Eastland was going to use it. They put some gravel down to stabilize it. Didn't cut any trees to be able to do that work. And then at that time or sometime shortly after, I believe they installed that silt fence.
And who would have put the silt fence in? Would that have been Eastland or would they have hired someone to do it?
It depends. I don't know that silt fence specifically. A lot of times they'll hire professional guys like S&M Farms who come out and install it. Being such a small area, they might have done it themselves, so I do not know the answer.
All right, so to my mind, I think that's rather important because I'd like to know when they did put in erosion control measures. So,
Okay.
and I would like, instead of someone saying, yeah, we put it in on February 1st, I'd like to see some sort of documentation or some sort of evidence supporting any timeline when that silt fence was put in.
Yep, well, I'll do my best to dig that information up.
All right. And then just switching gears now, going on to Washington Street. I know you've seen the photographs back in April where there was a decent storm event and it's pretty brown water at that point. Have you been to the site since our last meeting in May?
Yes, I was at the site a couple weeks ago. I did notice what you were saying. There's some sediment against the silt fence. Looks like sediment got into the wetland. When I was there, the stream, and actually every time I've been there, the stream is flowing clear. It's between the basin and, the wetland system, and then eventually it gets to the stream. So good news, it's not getting to the stream from what I've ever observed. Obviously, the bad news is it's leaving that basin. And in discussions with Eastland and consistent with the restoration plan I provided, they told me today that in 2 weeks, they'll be in there to dig out that basin, build it to its final condition based on the subdivision plans, remove that sediment, and then update any erosion control measures, as needed. Because what's happening right now is there's some debris at the outlet structure. The bottom of the pond is full of sediment, and that's largely because, everything uphill, even though they did a number of measures to help that site, up top, kind of on the pad area, it's still in a gravel condition. So we believe that, building that pond, getting that stabilized, getting it functioning the way that it should would be a big step in avoiding some of this silt getting through.
You think it would be possible for us to get maybe some photographs and maybe the restoration plan in writing by July 10th?
Yeah. So I did provide a restoration plan for that.
Right.
I will provide some photographs too.
Okay, very good. And so what we'll do is we'll just continue that generally to July 10th as well.
Okay.
All right, I think we're all set.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
All right, and thank you. Any thoughts?
I think that at least Washington Street is just a nightmare site. I mean, I think they've done a good job with what they're trying to accomplish there, but with having that much exposed soil, it's just inevitable that, at some point it's...
Yeah, and I mean, I know that they will, I think whenever we brought things to their attention, they do respond. And
Yeah, they do.
So,
Yeah.
and I think once, to his point, once I think things are sort of finalized there, then I think the problem will probably be eliminated.
Yeah.
With respect to Albert Street, I'm not sure that the fact that they may have put up erosion control measures maybe in February or earlier
Yeah.
makes much difference, in all honesty. I mean, again, I think a clear reading or a fair reading of the bylaw and the regulations indicates that there was a violation. So I don't know how the board feels about punishment, because that's really what it would be. It would be some sort of fine. What do you think?
I'll say, and I don't know, I don't have a specific date in mind, but I think that, I saw the amount of soil that they had up there. I think they were using that road for maybe even longer than the beginning of the year. I don't know for certain.
I looked at Gary Ellard's
Yes.
email from May, and he thinks it was in use for 6 to 8 months before then, which would actually bring it to the end of, or maybe even November, December of last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think this isn't a situation where there's a wetland because of cinnamon fern. The wetland there is clearly visible. It was certainly clearly visible when we went there, although the last time we were there, it seemed to have dried up a little bit. So, and again, I think because it's an area where they're not constructing anything there, but they are using it as part of their project, and so and certainly the wetland there triggers jurisdiction for us, and the road was not indicated in any plan. I'm not sure I don't think that was deliberate, but I think again the standard I'm going by is knew or should have known.
Yes.
And
And
I
it
think-
was clearly delineated on that plan too, and the wetland itself, and it was clearly noted as outside the limit, the scope of their work.
Exactly. So I think what happened is they, again, probably from a business, they made a business decision that it was cheaper for them to just transmit. They were talking about keeping trucks off of the highways and the roads. Well, sure, okay. But aside from that, it's a more direct route.
Made them a lot of money too.
I think it probably helped their
Yes.
bottom line. I think so too. So, Megan?
Would any fines that would be imposed, they would not be retroactive? They would be from,
No, I think we can find them. We know, and they've even admitted,
they have, yeah.
Michelle and I, when we went there on Saturday, I asked one of the representatives of the company, and I said, how long has this been in use? So, since the beginning of the year. So, I mean, I don't think it's not a mystery, So to answer your question, yeah, we can, again, it was an unauthorized use, a violation of the bylaw and the regulations going back. I mean, we can use the date of January 1st, if you're so inclined. And when I say you, I'm not just pointing to you,
You are though.
but also, I mean, again, we're a small board. I don't know, Tom, how you feel, or Chris, how you feel about it, but, and that's why I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I think the fact that they had mentioned that it was closer to the beginning of the year, you heard somebody from their company say that, then
I mean, I think that's an admission to me,
yeah.
so.
I mean, if it's a minimum, if it's the minimum fine of $50 a day for basically half the year, that's $9,000.
Okay. I mean, we can do it,
Which I'm not saying they can't. I'm just putting it.
and just so you know, I think they have a right of appeal to the district court. So, so I mean, it's not like they're without a remedy here, a potential remedy here, you know? And again, I just, and all the time that I've been on the commission, and I've been on the commission a long time, the only other time that we fined someone was Mr. Gugman. That was 5,
Years
6,
ago? Yeah,
7
at
years
least,
ago.
or further, yeah.
You know, and so it's not something, I don't think we wield a heavy hand, I really don't. I think, I think people understand that we will work with applicants. But again, there are times when I think there are violations that are pretty egregious, so. And it just strikes me that this is one of those situations.
When did it first come to our attention?
Gary found out in April.
Yeah, back in April, I would say.
Who was Mr. Allard again?
He's the building inspector.
Oh, okay.
He's the commissioner.
Do you know how he found out, by the way?
So he found out, and I would want to double check with him before, because public meetings, so it's all going out. But
Right.
he went there for an inspection on that garage building, which is right next to the road.
Right.
And then, saw them buzzing down.
Probably saw a truck on.
Yeah, exactly. And then kind of wondered, what's going on back there? And it was my understanding, and I could be correct, so I'd want to double check with him, that at that point there was no silt fence or anything like that up.
When you went out there in April.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what
That was my understanding too.
Yeah, I believe that's what he said when we had.
And I think after he went there, I think that's when they put it up.
Yes, exactly. So I think it was between him taking a ride down there to check it out, and then coming back, a week or so later for the next inspection that got
Can
through.
we confirm that with him?
Yes, yeah, I can definitely figure that out.
All right, good.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, if we are still doing fact finding, we can defer any discussion of fines until our next meeting.
I think that's reasonable just to get the timeline straight.
Me too.
Yeah, I can certainly loop Gary in on an email with, realistically whoever wants to be on it, and we can kind of get a timetable put together and get the facts in order before we.
All right, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And because, I know, the one guy said, and I mean, I think we have it on the video, that he said he thinks it was used since January or whatever, but, I just like to have the timeline more
Concrete.
concrete
Yeah.
if we're gonna.
I think that makes sense.
Okay, very good. The only other thing we have on, I think, is the meeting minutes for May 8th.
I'll leave the, I need to confirm, I'm gonna talk to Ginger about the certificate of vote, because I know we want to get the updated names on that, since
Okay.
there's a couple old people, so hopefully for the next meeting, I'll know how we go about that.
All right, great. I have no changes to the meeting minutes for May 8th.
Did someone come in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I
think
joined
it's-
remotely. Okay, gotcha. All right. No, I don't see anything.
Okay. Make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of May 8th. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 It's approved. Is there any new business? If there is no new business, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote. All right, everyone, thank you very much.
This conference is no longer being recorded.